When we're doing inner work or inner alignment work, sometimes we don't like the answers we find. And that can be the challenge.
Well, hey, welcome to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And this week we're going to dive into some energy. And I'm pumped for this because Candice Van Dertholen is a holistic practitioner, and she's the founder of the Warrior Within Healing movement. And she's dedicated to helping others reconnect with themselves during life's most pivotal transitions. And whether she's supporting someone's brand new to energy work, this is something she's very good at, which I'm excited about, or if it's just an entrepreneur feeling really stuck in their business, and I know I've been there a time or two myself as well. Candice's work always begins with the same foundation, and this is where she and I really are singing from the same song sheet, even if we are sharing different tunes. One could say it all starts with this inner alignment. Candice, welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you're here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That was a beautiful welcome in. So thank you. I appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. So Candice, energy work, Reiki, healing, crystals, like these are things that you've invited into your life, maybe more lately, I guess you could say. What led you to energy work in the first place?
Yeah. So, one of the things that led me into energy work was that I kept finding these roadblocks, and I would get so far on my healing journey. Just a backstory, I am somebody who has a lived experience of very deep depression. So, it started really young in my childhood. And so, sorry about that. Over the years, okay, so it started in my childhood, and over the years, I just never really got the adequate care or help or support. And so I think it was about 6 years ago that I first really opened up to energy work, and that's where it all began. As my throat
Well,
closes in.
and good for you for continuing. Yeah, I was gonna say, are you okay? Do you need a break?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, and I mean, thank you so much for speaking to it as well. Thinking about throat closing and things like that. It's hard sometimes to speak about Reiki and alternative therapies, but I think that it's also incredibly courageous because for people like yourself and for many of the people that you've helped, it really can be that alternative that unlocks a lot. When you're working with somebody through more of these energetic modalities, what do they say, about that experience? Does it work for everybody? Does it always work? That's one question that I would have.
Yeah. So, what's really beautiful about working with so many people who are new to energy work is that I'm really thorough in explaining what to expect in a session. And a lot of the people that are coming in are right in the middle of a transition period in their life. They've more than likely been serving others, and they're really depleted. And they're searching for what's next. What am I here to do? And really, I just want to feel better. And so I have many different outcomes, but the primary ones are that they feel lighter, they feel more focused, and they have a better sense of clarity because a lot of the work that I do is very foundational. So I think it's really important to explain that the way that I practice is called grounded spirituality. So many people come to spiritual experiences not necessarily knowing that they're trying to escape this embodiment. They're just up here in the clouds, like really seeking spiritual because it feels great. It really does. But if we can learn how to feel safe within our own body, then we can ground in, work through these layers of experience. And then when we go to connect in, we're not running from our lives, we're walking with it. And so a lot of my work is to help people feel safe, feel supported, and really come back into knowing who they are as the essence of who they are, not their identity, not their labels, not their work, but who am I as a soul? And so clients are often experiencing, again, just this big sense of clarity and ease. And we're working through finding the cycles and patterns that have repeated in various areas of their life. And so it's like this aha moment that they feel, and they feel such validation and relief. And it's just a way in which they can truly, truly honor themselves for the first time.
It's so beautiful. And I love that, to walk with your life. Like, that's so beautiful. And, something I've said for a long time is that, it helps to have your head in the clouds so that you can vision, and so that you can, access your spirituality, and you can access that flow state and release judgment and all of those beautiful things. And also having your boots on the ground. So I think that's so interesting that we have sort of a similar way of saying that. How would a person know that the issue is inner alignment? I work with so many coaches, so many different practitioners over the years. Sometimes it doesn't seem like, and I don't know if you have a different take on this, but sometimes it doesn't really seem like there's an openness to exploring alignment from an
Mm.
inner perspective. And even for people that are trained in it, like sometimes it really feels like there's this hard shell of protection. How would one discover or uncover that the issue is more of an inner alignment versus, say, flaws or lack of capability or insecurities? Like, how do we know that it's an alignment issue?
Yeah, well, you're asking something that's really been on the forefront of my mind lately, which is when we're doing inner work or inner alignment work, sometimes we don't like the answers we find. And that can be the challenge, whether it is a personal thing. So we might not like who we are, or we have things that we've experienced in our life that make us feel shame, guilt, and sorrow, and so when we're doing this inner work, it is about peering into the full self, which can be scary. It can be intimidating. It can feel heavy sometimes. And that's what prevents a lot of people from doing it, because it then means that I have to do something more or different, which shouldn't really necessarily feel, it shouldn't make us feel a way, but it does, because we're hardworking, we do all the things, but we're like, I don't feel like I need to work on anything else. Like, it should just be coming by now. And it's like, but the foundational elements are, there's always a little bit of clearing that we can do to really open up your capacity to have even greater, life experiences, circumstances in your business. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are like stuck in their business where they're not seeing growth. And a lot of the times it's because they're not aligned with what they want to do, or they're really scared of the success that that business could bring. And that could be, connected with past burnout that they experienced in their corporate life, or past burnout that they experienced over here. And so they're creating an energetic resistance that is out of alignment. And so that's why this work is so important, because we think we want all this success, and we do, but then we're also afraid that we're going to lose it. What if we can't handle it? Can we duplicate it? And so we create this natural resistance that then makes us feel stuck. So,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot about my own experience of building this business. For example, I've been doing coaching of some form or fashion for well over a decade, and as an entrepreneur for over 8 years. And one of the growth points that has shown up a few times has been this inner alignment, because what people don't necessarily appreciate, I think, sometimes, is growth is continuous, right? So you can serve and you can sell from where you stand, right? Like from right now, like you're good enough, you're great, you're amazing, you're divine, you're wonderful. And as you continue to grow your capabilities, and as you continue to grow your associations and your status and all of these different things, what used to fit you like a glove doesn't always continue to fit. And you're so right. Like I hear a lot of entrepreneurs talk about fear of success, or a fear of, this imposter syndrome or things like that. And those are different labels for what I think you do a beautiful job of, just the wrapper of, it's a resistance. It's an energetic resistance. So for somebody who's not familiar with Reiki or energy work or crystals, I know for me, when I was starting on this journey, I was like, that's all woo woo, right? But you're a very, you're a very pragmatic and grounded person who still practices like these things. And I have had a little more exposure and education on these things later. But to someone who's maybe new to the idea of Reiki or energy work, and maybe they really value science and they really value certainty and all of these kinds of things, what would you tell that person if they were still energy curious?
Yeah, I love it because like I said, a lot of the clients I work with are right there. They're very curious and they're still leaning into all the practicality of life, which is totally beautiful. I'm the same way. I love the science bridges spirituality in that combination because scientists have been studying this energy work, metaphysics, all of it for decades, if not centuries, because they're trying to explain ancient wisdom and tradition. So there are several doctors and books out there that I can definitely recommend there as a starting point if you're curious, because it's all been studied. And we're finally starting to see more doctors feel comfortable to open up about the studies that they've done. I know that Diary of a CEO had a neuroscientist on his podcast recently who was communicating with her deceased husband, and she wanted to prove it from a scientific standpoint that it is possible to do so. And that's just the curiosity that we have. But to go back to the basics of what energy work is and how we can really look at it from a different lens of perspective is that we carry energy throughout our entire body. Our food is energy, our air is energy, our water, all the elements in our environment, so sound, everything has energy. And the way that we look at it is that we're always resonating at a certain frequency. And those frequencies are usually dictated by our experiences. So whatever we've gone through in our lifetime really accumulates to how we energetically have our signature. And so we tend to call in different patterns and cycles. So meaning if you had a certain childhood experience, you might replicate that in your home environment. So you might also replicate that in your relationships or even your career. And so it's really important to find the root of the cycle and patterns that aren't aligned, because sometimes they're very aligned and we celebrate those. And sometimes they're just not serving us and or we've outgrown them. And so when we think of energy, we're really just co-creating in our environment with our energy signature. And I look at it through the energy centers, which are the chakras, and each one lays a stair-step foundation for what I'm not going to say their purpose is, but like when you start understanding the root of each one, you can really understand, oh, why do I have this fear of public speaking? Or why can't I fully see my vision? Or why do I feel unsafe whenever I'm going in to have this conversation? Because at the foundation of it is that you might not have that full, firm belief in yourself because you might not know yourself. So energy work is there to help support and guide as you start to uncover these layers of your experiences or what you feel about yourself, what you feel about the world. And it's just one aspect of how you can live a better life.
I think one of the things that I've come to appreciate about energy work that, again, like a former version of myself would be like, science, and I would use the science to kind of deflect the conversation that really matters, which is we're all people, we're living a life, we are pursuing goals, and we are being held back by any number of things as we are achieving those goals. And, I'm always reminded, the struggle is guaranteed, but success is not guaranteed. And a tool that can help you to activate your success is still going to be really powerful. And, whether you believe in energy and energy frequencies or any of that, I've personally found is somewhat immaterial, because what that kind of work can do is it can give you language to focus your attention and focus where you're paying attention to things. And that on its own is already huge. Everybody these days, and we could use the word energy if we want to. I like to get more specific, like beyond energy. I like to say like it's your emotional experience. It's how you're feeling, and start to like really describe those things. I think a lot of people really lack language, and they lack focus or a focused way to walk through, how do I actually feel? What do I really want? What are my perceptions around the obstacles of life, the struggles? And so, my point of view is, I'm like, if it works and it gives you that language and it gives you that necessary breakthrough, then okay. And crystals are pretty also, right? Like, so there's a lot there, and you can believe in the energetics and the fields and all of that kind of thing. But I'm gonna say, for the skeptic, like, it still works, right? In the way that a lot of things work that we can't fully explain why it works, right? And that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, when you think about,
So go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, we think about Wi-Fi, and everybody's usually using that as an example because it exists. We can't necessarily see it, and we definitely can't always explain it unless you're into that field, right? And so there's things like that, or air. Like, we can't necessarily see air, but we can feel it, we can experience it. And so those are the kind of things to think about when you're
Exactly.
considering this work. And it can be as esoteric as you want it to be, or it can be very simple, like how I practice, in that, yes, I love all the woo, and don't get me wrong, it's great, but I'm not the person that's going to say, hey, we need to go sage your whole house right now, because it's not accessible to like 98% of people out there. Yeah, it'll work great wonders, but only if you truly believe in the potential and possibility anyway. And again, these are tools, like you
Mhm.
said, to help guide our system forward. And when it's in alignment for you, then it really does these amazing, these experiences can truly create ripple effects in all areas of your life. And I've seen it in so many different ways.
Absolutely. I'll never forget. I had a coach that I hired very early in my entrepreneurial journey, and no kidding, she had me like lay down on the floor and do energy work, and I was just like unprepared. Like, I did not
Yeah.
know what we were going to be doing, and it actually ended up being like so good for me in so many ways. Trusting a new process, trusting a new person, and the conversations that were revealed vis-a-vis the methodology that she was going through were incredibly powerful things, that I realized that I had had so much practice in suppressing how I felt about things, or suppressing like what my true thoughts were, and also suppressing my own curiosity of like, what could I be open to potentially. And when I say my creativity was so unlocked, and that creativity there, led me to exploring relationships I never would have explored, to trying new ways of moving. And, we were about to go live with today, and you were so complimentary of my lipstick. And so much of that, it's like the former version of me that did not have access to energetic modalities or an open-mindedness around the exploration. And look, I'll be honest, I still haven't made up my mind about a lot of things, but the thing is, you don't have to. You don't have to. And your life can end up being so much better. So like, learning to express myself and choose the bright reds or the pinks, and to try and change and shift a lot of things. I do love data, and I like science, and I like all of those things, but I want everybody to know, like, hey, crystals have played a role, right? And I'm not one of those people that's going to sit there and say like I've got a stone right here, right? I'm not going to sit here and say like, this rock magically, gave me everything. But this is actually a rock I got from a energy coaching certification, by the way, and it's a symbol. It's the problem and it's the solution on two sides of it. So just having that reminder around me is also super powerful. So just like, for anybody who's listening, I think sometimes when we're in the energetic world, it can be like, who can I trust? Who can I not trust? And I want to actually ask you that, Candice. How do you know that you're working with somebody that is legit like yourself? Like, what are some of the things that a well-intended, well-meaning, and well worth the investment energy practitioner might present as?
Yeah, so I think that it's the energy that they put out into the world, really. And it is something that when you're choosing a practitioner, you do want to resonate with their message and their method and how they approach things. Because again, every practitioner is a little bit different, and what they're aligned with is also different. And so, well intended practitioners are never going to make you dependent on them. Like, I am not servicing you as a client if I am not guiding you into your own journey. Because if we only create codependency, how are we helping support the collective energy any different than any of the systems that don't work? And so I think that a well intended practitioner will be a guide and a mentor and somebody that's there to help you support and activate the journey. But never ever should you feel that you can't go on with life without them in it. Meaning, again, most of my clients see me for like, I think 6 to 8 sessions, and then we might check in down the line because we're really moving through so much in that time period that then they can take it forward for themselves, because I'm really big on education. As somebody who went through a lived experience of having like my whole autonomy stripped from me, it's really important as a practitioner that I don't do the same to someone else. And so I'd say that's one of the key things. The other thing is they
Mm.
should also be always working on themselves. Like, I am never done with my journey in that I get excited now. So there's a difference in the beginning. It can be a little bit challenging in that you're kind of going through the murky stuff and like trying to figure out all the things. But then you start to get inquisitive because you're like, oh, I'm really curious. Like, I was like kind of in a tiffy about this. What is going on with me? And like, what's the deeper layer? And so it's kind of gets to be this fun, experimental, I guess you could say, moment in your life. And a practitioner is usually going to have another practitioner in their life. I see a practitioner once a month outside of my own energy work that I do for myself, because I'm very intentional that I want to know. I want to make sure that I am a clear vessel, because I'm literally supporting the energy of others. So I would say those would be key elements. Is like, you should never feel like you can't go between sessions, or, maybe in the beginning it's a little bit different, but again, like, you should never have to feel dependent on that person to get you further along in your journey.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that about your approach too, is like you are so educationally focused on, and really it's about the power that the person has that you're working with, and like them accessing that for themselves. And dear listener, she just gave like a crazy good rundown that you can apply to really anybody that you work with, is this, but also keeping your power with you so that you're making a great decision. And, a great practitioner is going to be cool with a no, and they're going to be
Mhm.
cool with a heck yes. And, those are the kinds of people you want to be in relationship with anyway. So that's super, super
Right?
cool. Candice, what is the best way for people to get to know you a little better and keep up with what you're building next?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. It's Candice_Elizabeth.co. I love to, I'm primarily in my stories these days because I think that the interaction is more fun and lively. So that is where you can most easily access me.
I'm excited to follow you there. And hey, listener, all of her links are also in the show notes wherever you happen to be listening or watching this episode. Candice, thank you so much for a candid and awesome conversation about energy and healing and everything. This was a truly unique episode, and I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. And I wish everyone listening well. And thank you so much for being open.
I love it. So good. And listener, if you love this, if you want to share this conversation about Reiki and crystals and energy work and the choice to pursue that as an alternative, feel free to grab the link to this episode and share it with 3 of your friends. Just text it to them or email it to them or DM it to them, or heck, use a carrier pigeon. But make sure you get it in the hands of someone who needed to hear this today. And before you go, make sure you smash that subscribe button, because if you've made it all the way to this point in the episode, you're probably going to love the next one. So grab that, hit that link wherever you happen to be listening. And then finally, if you've listened a couple of times and you actually really love the show, The way that you can help us the most is to leave a positive review however you happen to be listening. So it could be a comment in the YouTube, it could be a beautiful review in Apple or Spotify, but however you do that, thank you so, so much because it helps people to make the decision to spend time with us on the show. I'll be back with another episode very soon, but until then, make sure that you do what matters.